In our final film tonight, we're looking back at a once vital but now largely forgotten arable crop. Flax went into decline 400 years ago, but during World War I, it became essential for the production of aircraft wings. I've been to meet a farmer in Gloucestershire who's trying to bring it back again. This is not your everyday boat. And apart from the wooden frame that gives it its shape, this boat is made entirely out of this, flax. In a moment, I'll be taking to the water to find out if it can really float. But first, a bit more about the strange crop it's made from. On a farm not far from Tetbury lives Simon Cooper, with what's probably the last field of flax in the country. Simon, hello.
Oh, hello. Good to see you.
So this is your field of flax?
Yes, this is the extent of our crop, half an acre.
Right. What made you decide to start growing flax?
Well, curiosity really. It's been a crop which has grown for thousands of years and not for the last 50 years since the introduction of man-made fibres. So we thought we'd find out why or why not.
Simon is particularly keen to find new uses for flax fibres. But he's learning by farming it the traditional way, and that means pulling by hand.
What you do, grasp a handful, pull it, give it a quick shake to get rid of any of the soil, fill your other hand up, then when you've got a handful, lay it out, root end one way, seeds the other way.
Once pulled, the crop is laid out in the field to allow moisture from the ground to dissolve the tough outer stalks so that we can get to the all-important fibres within. You've got to get it just rotten enough, but not too rotten, otherwise it spoils. Fields of flax are a very rare sight in Britain today, but for many years it was an important crop. The ancient Egyptians farmed it to make their famous linen. In fact, there's evidence that it was grown in the country of Georgia as early as 30,000 BC. Here in Britain, it was a popular crop for clothes and other products until relatively recently. To learn about its decline, I'm being joined by an agricultural historian. So, John, for thousands of years, flax would have been a really common sight in this country. Why did it disappear?
Well, the main reason was really the availability of cheap cotton. With the expansion of cotton production in the southern states in America, it really undermined it as a viable source of fibre.
So it was cheaper to bring cotton in from America than it was to grow flax in this country?
Considerably cheaper. The American system, based on the extensive use of slaves, enabled it to be transported to Britain in increasing quantities and at ever lower prices.
Despite a long-term decline, the outbreak of World War I saw demand for flax growing again, chiefly to make the wings of aircraft. And with their men away on the front line, the country turned to its land girls to do the hard work, as one later explained.
We were taken to and from the fields in lorries, a jolly ride bumping over the country roads, standing up and holding on. Flax must be pulled by hand and not by machines, we were told. We were a welcome amusement for the folk who lived around and in Yeovil. They came in hundreds to see girls in breeches, living in tents. Girls were helping to make those aeroplanes that zoomed low over the fields of Somerset.
Back on the farm, I'm finding out what's happening next to the flax we've harvested with Simon's wife, Anne.
Alistair, this has now been dried out for several months, been stored away until we're ready to use it. And first process we'll do is breaking.
Right.
So
let's break.
Let's crack on.
First, we break the stalks using a hand roller built by Anne and Simon based on designs from the late 1700s. Next comes something called scutching.
So this is the scutching, and as you can see, it flies everywhere. And you get lots of small pieces of fibre coming off.
Once upon a time, every worker in the village would have had their own personalised scutching knife.
People spent a lot of time on their scutching knives. They would decorate and paint, and they'd give them to their loved ones.
You knew you
Love
were
of
loved
it.
if you've got a
Yeah, if
scutching
you've got
knife for Christmas.
yeah, exactly.
So this is your own design.
Obviously, I'm not loved.
To scrape away the last dusty shives of stalk, the fibres are pulled through a set of hackling combs, ready for spinning into yarn.
So you're going on to the next ones.
Is that ready?
I think so. That's looking good.
So onto here.
So all the time you're getting rid of the rest of the shives. You're separating out those fibres.
I started with rather more. I'm not sure I've been very efficient here.
But it's very lovely. It's
Right.
very fine.
I think you're just being nice, Anne.
I think I might be.
The fibres vary in length, and numbers of them may be stuck together. So they are drawn by hand over a series of metal spikes.
With World War II looming, the country again found itself in need of flax. By now, the crop was being imported, but the prospect of war cut off the supply.
In 1938, flax imports from Russia virtually ceased, so consequently it was necessary for the government to make strenuous efforts to try and increase production. Farmers were encouraged to plant it. There's a significant increase in the acreage, and this is accompanied by the fact that labour is released to enable activities such as weeding the crop in the spring and harvesting the crop in the autumn to be successfully undertaken.
First, a boy takes pieces from the bundle and places them in the machine. They are now passing into the part of the machine where the combing or hackling is done. Very careful looking will enable you to see the steady rise and fall of the flyers as they wind the yarn onto the bobbins.
Back with Anne, and we're spinning our flax fibres into yarn the old-fashioned way. And then, finally, our yarn is woven into cloth. So that's it. I've been through every step to get from this to this. And it's only taken, well, all day. Despite being part of life in Britain for thousands of years, the farming, processing and weaving of flax has all but vanished today. So is there any chance of a revival? Is there a future for flax in this country?
I think the future could be quite bright, particularly given the fact it's a very strong fibre, and there is considerable potential for further expansion, particularly if we can successfully mechanise the labour-intensive task of harvesting it.
Simon also thinks flax has a future as an alternative to man-made fibres.
The new uses are in composites. It can replace or complement glass fibre. It's got natural variability in it, and it adds flexibility to composite materials. So there's a great deal of research in this country as well looking into the uses of plant fibres.
To prove his point, Simon has developed a canoe made with woven flax fabric, waterproofed with flax resin. So you reckon it floats?
Yes.
Well, the only way to find out is to put it in the water. I'm going to look pretty stupid if it doesn't. From linen bed sheets to aircraft wings and Canadian canoes, there's no doubt flax has its uses. And who knows, the idea of a locally grown boat might catch on.
Are you canoeing in slow motion?
And BBC Local Radio will be unearthing many of the forgotten stories of World War I and its impact here at home. You can catch those at 8:15 every morning this week.